did want to start with England, mate. You mentioned them already that they were awful yesterday, and I actually took a day off yesterday. Although 2 bits of content came out, they were recorded on Friday night. I actually took a full day off, which I very rarely do, and I did have the England game on, but I was having a little barbecue, and I nearly left to react to that abysmal performance. But I said, no, I'm going to chill, have a few beers, enjoy the sun, have a day off. Do you think Southgate should be sacked as England manager?
Absolutely, 1,000,000%. I'd have sacked him after the World Cup. I'd have sacked him after the Euros. Like, he's done great things with England. You know, we've got to a European final, which I think it's the first time we've ever done that. We've got to, World Cups, semi-finals, quarterfinals. But when it comes down to them crunch moments, when it comes down to playing the big games, we never deliver. Like, Germany's probably the best side we've beaten. One of the best sides we've beaten. What was it, 2-0 in the Euros? But, mate, he's football. Like, the amount of talented players we've got in our England team, and we're not beating Ukraine. It's you could say it's qualifiers, we're top, etc., etc. But I just can't stand him, mate. I can't stand him. He's a yes man. He's a puppet for the FA. He's everything they want. He's never going to argue back. He's never going to, say things that are a bit controversial. He is exactly what they want. A puppet in a waistcoat who will just smile and nod. When it comes, like, how is Jordan Henderson at 33, 34 years of age starting in this team? How is, Harry Maguire, who's barely played a minute of club football, still in this team? Like, it's mind-blowing. Jordan Pickford, who's been, pretty poor in the first 4 games. How is he still in this team? If we get an injury to Harry Kane as well, who goes up front in this England team? Like, there's so many questions to be asked, about us. And whenever it comes down to these crunch moments, I don't know. I don't know, mate. I can't stand him. I can't stand him.
Do you know, his persona, his behaviours, his attitude, his professionalism, all of that I like about Southgate, or I have no issue with it. But it's the style of football with the talent that we have, as you say. You've got Jude Bellingham, who is the first new signing at Real Madrid in the club's history to score in their opening 4 or 5 La Liga games. He's a midfielder, I will add. He scored 5 of their 8 La Liga goals so far this season. You have James Maddison, who's been killing it in a 10 role for Spurs, moved out to the left, which you have Rashford, who I wouldn't say has been electrifying this season, but as soon as he's moved back out onto the left for Man United for 2 games, scored a goal, got assists, created penalties, like, he's been so much better. I still think back to that France game and the fact that Rashford, who was having an amazing World Cup, played for 3 minutes. Sterling was brought on ahead of him, who had an awful season, had just been flown back to the UK because his house was broken into, and then rushed back, still thinking about his family and everything going on there. What you said about Maguire is right. He looked rusty yesterday. He looked like a player that has barely played for 12 months. And I've always been I've never been a fan who believes that you should just pick the England starting 11 based on their current league form per se, because I also believe in creating what I would call Club England, which is, as long as you're not playing terribly for your club or on the bench, if you've been good for England, you should stay in and around the team. And Maguire has always been good for England, but the fact he's not playing means he's going to get rusty. And he's already been told by Ten Hag, you are going to be 4th to 5th choice this season when everybody's fit. So he could go the whole season. He only started 7 league games last year. He could start even less.
I'm amazed he stayed at United. I'm absolutely amazed.
I'm not. He's on 200 grand a week, and no one offered him more than 70,000 a week.
Yeah, but if you're a player, right? If you're a player and you've got a club like West Ham, who, if you've ever seen a centre back suit West Ham, it is him in a back 3,
I agree.
In the middle. He fit them like a glove. West Ham are in Europe. It's not like they just won a European trophy last season. They've started really well. They've beaten Brighton. They've beaten Chelsea. And you think the centre-backs they've got, Aguerd, Zuma, if they get an injury to either of those 2, the drop-off is quite big. Ogbonna's, 34, 35 now. If I'm Maguire, I'd be thinking, and West Ham are going to pay, I don't know what percentage of the wages they're going to pay, but surely, as a professional footballer, you'd want to play football.
No, you would, mate. You're right. But he's thinking, look, maybe there's a part of him that thinks I could get myself back at Man United, but he's deluding himself. And that's Harry Maguire's biggest issue is he has a terrible circle of people around him from a reality perspective. They blow smoke up his ass. He has yes people around him. A lot of it's his family. You're the best, Harry. You deserve this, Harry. You can do no wrong, Harry. Do you know one thing about
Harry Kane?
do you know what? One thing about my dad that I love and respect the most. I could go to him when I was working, when I was at school. I go, oh, Dad, boss is being out of order. And he'd never like go, oh, that's terrible, son. They're treating you badly. Oh, you're worth more than that. It'd always be like, well, what could you do differently? What did you do wrong? How has this happened? Have you been perfect? Have you been?
Yeah.
It kind of challenged me in those moments and made me go, do you know what? In fairness, I've been late a few times, or I've done this, or I wasn't really professional, and it used to annoy me in the moments. I'd be like, oh, Dad, I just want someone to have my back. And now I'm older, I look back and I realize my dad did have my back because he made me go back and behave the right way. My dad just for my whole life as a kid and a young adult just said to me, everybody else is wrong, Terry. You are right. I wouldn't be like, I wouldn't have done what I've done in my life. I wouldn't be where I am. I've achieved some really good things. I'm not comparing myself to an Elon Musk or a professional footballer, but I'm very happy with where I am. And a lot of that stemmed for the lessons my dad taught me. And I look at Harry Maguire and I genuinely believe his biggest issue is that the people around him always tell him yes. They all tell him he's amazing. You know, you get those guys and girls that go to the X Factor and they'd get up on stage and sing and they'd get laughed at because they were awful. And you could tell by the look on their mum and dad's face who were tone deaf. No, she's brilliant. We've told her she's brilliant her whole life. Yeah, that's why you've just embarrassed her on stage in front of 50,000 people because she isn't very good. And you should have told her, you ain't a good enough singer. Please try and do something you're actually talented at. You need people. That tough love is so important. And he should have gone. And do you know what's crazy? The pressure of playing for England now because he isn't playing for United is going to make him crack. If he'd have gone to West Ham, there would be no more foul compilation. Everybody would stop talking about him. He'd be back in the England team and nobody would care. The pressure would be off his shoulders and you'd get the very best Harry Maguire back. And for England, up until recently, he's always been really, really good. So it's just a domino effect here, more poor decision-making. But the fact that it's been enabled by Southgate, that's one of the biggest reasons why I want him gone, because we know what's going to happen. We'll get to the Euros. We'll probably get to a quarter-final, maybe even a semi-final.
But do you know as well what he did?
Again with this guy.
Why is Tomori nowhere near? Isn't he looking at playing for Nigeria as well now? But Tomori won a Scudetto with AC Milan 2 or 3 years ago, and he's a better centre-back than Harry Maguire and can't get anywhere near this team. The defenders we had on the bench yesterday, right, at centre-back, was Colwill, or Tomori was on the bench, sorry, Colwill and Dunk, who have both been better than Maguire probably in the last 12 months. I think Lewis Dunk's a top centre-half. But Guahi and Maguire is a partnership that just screams it like you've got an experienced centre-back in Maguire who's played a lot of games for England, and Guahi who's barely played for England, but there's no it screams zero chemistry as a centre-back partnership. You know, that
I agree.
As our fullbacks, Chilwell and Walker have no problem with that. The midfield, Rice and Bellingham have no problem with that. Henderson and Maddison on the left, with Harry Kane kind of playing this striker quarterback role. Like if that was the 11 that played the Euros, we're not getting nowhere. We'll probably get quarters, which isn't.
I agree, and they need to work out this situation with Ben White as well, because I think he should be within this England setup. It's the players he picks, and then it's just the Henderson thing is just horrendous. Henderson's been so far past his best for about 3 years now. It's unbelievable. And listen, I understand what the Saudi League is trying to do, and I'm trying to be nice about it here. But typically, they're signing people that either one couldn't get moves to big teams in England. Like, I think if a Man United or an Arsenal or a City wanted Ruben Neves, he'd be here. Or they're signing players that are over the hill, that are finished, that are like beyond their best years. So the fact that like Jordan Henderson has gone there, they've signed him because he's beyond his best years. He said it himself. If Liverpool offered him a new contract, he'd have stayed. But there's a reason Liverpool didn't offer him a new contract, because he's no longer of that standard. And we should be bringing and developing players through. Like Ward-Prowse, I'm not saying at his peak, but Ward-Prowse right now is a better football player than Jordan Henderson. And what you have with Ward-Prowse, I wouldn't even start him either, by the way. But what you have with him coming on in maybe the last 20 minutes of a match is you have probably the best English set piece taker we've had since David Beckham, who, whether it's a free kick or whether it's crosses, whether it's corners, can help you. And we've seen so far at West Ham a really good start to life. You know, ironically, in a slightly more pragmatic system, Ward-Prowse looks even better than he did at Southampton, who tried to play more expansively. For it, again, based on how the manager plays, Ward-Prowse fits him like a glove, but he don't pick him. He picks Henderson. It's an abomination for me. And for me personally, I'd 100% want him. I wanted him out before the last World Cup. During the World Cup, not going to lie, I get giddy. You know, I watch the games, I have a drink. I'm like, oh, maybe we could do it. Maybe I was wrong. And then afterwards, I realized,
coming home, mate. It's coming home.
I got gassed, and I shouldn't have done. Southgate, thanks for what you've done, but we need someone that I don't want us to burn another generation of talent like we have now.
Who would you bring in as England manager?
Do you know what? I honestly would try and convince Pep Guardiola. That would be my first case.
You'd have to put so much money on the table, though. You're talking probably close to 40 million.
Do it. Like, he's worth that. That would be the first person I would go to would be Pep Guardiola. If you can't get Pep Guardiola, I'll be like, again, this whole notion of got to be an Englishman, nonsense. The ladies' team have been to a World Cup final and a European champions with a Dutch manager. It matters not what nationality it is for me. This doesn't get what it's like to be English. I don't care. It's irrelevant. Do you know what I'm saying? You don't need it.
What your thoughts be on Graham Potter? Plays a good style of football.
Not straight after the Chelsea situation. I think he needs to go somewhere and get his confidence back.
Reignite his career.
Yeah, I think he needs to do a little bit of that. But like Pep Guardiola, I think Jurgen Klopp should be somebody that the FA talks to. When I say I don't think it needs to be English, I would like them to have experience of English football. There was a manager years ago I thought we should have gone for, because he's one of the best cup managers I've ever seen, was Rafa Benitez. Style of football wasn't the best, but again, you've got to look at people. Who's a good cup manager? How do they play? Do you know? I mean, he's at Villa now, but I tell you who wouldn't be again. Unai Emery. These managers, as a cup manager. And that's what international football is. It's cup. I know they have a little league, but it's essentially cup football. We need to look at someone who understands English football, that knows the players, because obviously they've managed here, but who is of an elite level that can come in. Listen, Graham Potter maybe one day. Eddie Howe maybe one day. But all these other guys are better than them.
What about Jose? Let's say Jose finishes at Roma, right?
Done now. He's done.
Yeah, but he's still got Roma in a Europa League final. Or I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I would rather take Conte over Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, Conte maybe. The one thing I would say is it would be harder for them to become toxic, because there's no, you didn't buy me who I want. You can only pick the English guys, and it's all up to you. So every English footballer in the world is available to you. If you don't pick the right people, that's on you. Does that make sense? So
yeah, like you've got Jude Bellingham, who's going to be a future Ballon d'Or winner, who's in a couple of years probably going to be one of the best players on the planet. And, you know, we're playing players like Henderson next to him. Like,
yeah,
it makes mind-blowing. This is the best crop of players we've had since that golden generation where we had Scholes, Lampard and Gerrard. We've got so much talent.
Bro, but I would also look at, I'm going to butcher her name. Is it Vegman? The lady's current coach, the Lionesses coach. I know a lot of people say that she's a woman, though. I don't think it matters. If men can coach the women's game, I think women can coach the men's game. But I only look at this from a very biased point of view, that two of the best fighting coaches I had and two of the best bosses I ever had in my banking career were women. And just the difference.
As they listen more. They listen more.
There was a different how do I say this? They
a different approach to things, isn't it?
We listened in a different way. The interactions were different, and it got a lot more out of us. So yeah, I mean, again, I would prefer her to most of the other English male managers out there. So again, I'm not necessarily saying it has to be her, but if someone said, "Oh, you know," because who are you going to bring in? Like Eddie Howe, these guys. Again, I think she's more proven. The international managers I've mentioned are all more proven. I want someone who is a proven winner at a domestic stroke European or at a world level to come in, because I think Southgate helped us from the debacles we were under Roy Hodgson and the stuff with Big Sam. He got us being a decent team again. We now need someone to take us to another level as far as I'm concerned. And with the money we spend anyway, we should be going for the best.